Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and our show this week is about the subject of compassion. We're going to talk about sympathy a little bit, empathy a bit more, but mostly about compassion. And we're going to do a compassion meditation where you get to open your heart and feel compassion for those that you love and for humanity as a whole.
We're focusedpassion.com and talking about compassion. I wonder if there is a compassion that's not passionate. Would all compassion have to be passionate? I mean, what do these words mean, do you think?
That's a great question, because the word passion is so often misinterpreted. I mean, passion doesn't have to be loud or boisterous or enthusiastic. You can feel great passion by feeling super confident, just, standing tall and feeling confident without a lot of vibrating emotions. But there's still a deep, powerful sense, and that is passion. Passion is not the quality of the emotion. Passion is really the quantity of the emotion, how much emotion. And so compassion, I think, is the most love that you can feel, the most egoless love, the most love that's selfless and for others, the most love that's not about making you feel good, but for the benefit of the other person you're loving or feeling compassion with.
And I sure want to emphasize here at the top of the program that given the resistance, even today, and especially in the West, but largely all around the world, primarily with boy children, this resistance to being sensitive to your feelings, we've got lots of research now about the value of emotional intelligence, EQ, and emotional management. We'll talk about some of it today. But let's be clear that we can rise above, we can educate ourselves and realize the incredible benefits, the series of benefits in being sensitive to our feelings as guys. Just as I think women can benefit from being a little more assertive and standing up sometimes for themselves and pulling on their masculine energy, we can certainly as guys benefit from this sensitivity. The idea that there's power in being vulnerable and sensitive is something I'm anxious to promote.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's important to talk about the way to do that, to begin with what's easiest, which is to feel sympathy. Sympathy is something that's not difficult to experience. When someone loses something or someone experiences something bad, to say to them, to think, I'm sorry, I wish that hadn't happened to you, and to give your thoughts to them is not a difficult thing to do. There's not a lot of emotions involved in sympathy. It borders on it, but when you start to feel what the person's pain is like, then we move from sympathy into really empathy. And empathy is really like not just saying, I understand that you're feeling pain, but just going there with them and really, feeling it with them, sharing the burden. But for those who can get above and beyond empathy, to be able to really pull yourself ego self out of the equation altogether, and to just feel compassion for that person and for the plight they're in or the situation they're in. Not feel what they're feeling, but create your own feelings. Dig deep into your own heart and feel your own feelings and how those mingle with all the other feelings everyone else is feeling. See, there's something amazing about compassion. It vibrates on such a high level that it connects with everybody else feeling it at the same time. It's literally true in two different ways that compassion heals the heart. It heals the heart if you think of the heart in the way of being your emotions, compassion. But it also literally heals the organ in your body that pumps blood. It literally it's one of the very few things that has absolutely been proven to lower blood pressure and to heal the human heart.
I think you're onto something here to create a kind of a hierarchy, a ladder, or spiral staircase, stairway to heaven,
Nice.
Where sympathy, a little more refined, becomes empathy. There's a deeper caring. Sympathy, even if we said it's largely mental, has to have its emotional aspect.
Sure.
We can't separate thoughts and feelings completely in any situation. So if we say sympathy is mostly a decision or a judgment to identify with a person's plight or their situation, and there's some feeling that goes with that, then you're saying that empathy is more of a surrendering to the deeper feeling and allowing yourself, whether it feels like joy or whether often it feels like hurt, like grieving and loss, right? Somebody dies or the dog dies or whatever. The kitty gets hit by a car. And, especially if you've been through a similar situation, and so you allow yourself to go there, then that would be empathy. And then the highest level, the spiritual vibration of harmony, unity, but if not unity, certainly harmony. Now we're really getting close to the oneness of things. That's it's sort of like a triangle where we're moving up the triangle toward
a pyramid.
The top of where everything becomes one. And that's one of the reasons I like the mystical pendulum, the idea of the bottom half of the pendulum swinging yin and yang, to and fro, seeming like life to be full of separated beings with their separated objects, and then the other end being fixed, the top of the pendulum being eternal and infinite, unmoved, unmovable, unmoving. And yet all of this movement down here at the bottom is coming out of this fixed point at the top. And that's where I would assign compassion. Maybe the highest frequency of love we can imagine.
Yeah, it's a self-realization. That is, the higher self has to realize that the ego can be turned off for this experience. The higher self has to take over completely for you to experience compassion. It's almost as if compassion is surrendering to the energy of all the compassion there is everywhere, and you join in the void and fill it with your compassion as all others that are feeling compassion. So if sympathy is I understand, and empathy is I feel it too, compassion is I, along with every other I, loves you, and is healing you, and is really understanding, feeling, and being compassionate for where you're coming from.
I heard it said once this way: to see yourself in your neighbor and God in all things.
That's nice.
I don't know who gets credit for that, but there's an echo in the back of my head. That's probably biblical, or some inspired holy prophet said that once. But yeah, to really identify, again, so much of our root anxieties, our stresses and fears are born from feeling alienated and separated, and everything seems to be isolated from everything else. And yet we have this longing to belong, this longing to connect that many people say spiritually is evidence of the fact that ultimately we are but one thing, one life, one God, if you will, that extends itself into these many little bits and pieces. And then the job of the little bits is to find its way back to the one. And compassion is a pretty good name for that goal.
Yeah. It's home. It's where we feel part of everything and everyone. It means getting out of feeling afraid. You have to feel safe in the world to be able to go here, because otherwise you're looking out there for something dangerous to happen. You got to feel safe. And then you have to get out of the power of the ego, that I am this body, I am these thoughts, I am these feelings. You have to get out of that into that other perspective, that higher self, and then from that place surrender to being part of all that there is. Compassion is something that is so amazingly powerful, and yet sort of paradoxically it's just about the easiest thing in the world to experience. Because all it takes is simply the intention to do so and the time allotted. If you say, I'm going to feel compassionate for the next 30 seconds, you can do that. It's easy. You can think of someone in India who's starving to death, or someone who's just lost a loved one, and it's easy to feel compassion for anything or anyone anytime you want to. But to create it as a lifestyle, to create it as something that the way that you experience the world more and more, is what we're looking to do. So we're going to give you an opportunity to try this on for size, see how great compassion feels, compassion for your neighbor, compassion for humanity, compassion for the plight that we're all in, this thing called life, and just opening up to feeling that feeling of me, not separate from, but as part of everyone else feeling the same magical feeling.
You bet. Let's talk about some of the specific benefits, Steve. First two areas that come to mind, and it's really all part of the same thing. They're not separate areas at all. Forgiveness. Let's talk a little bit about forgiveness, because even this is a difficult concept for a lot of folks. And also the role of compassion in anger management and the benefits that we get. Again, compassion is not merely something that you do so that somebody else benefits. This is not a sacrifice. Compassion is more of the place where you or me even you and me, becomes just us. So it's not I'm doing this for you as some sort of sacrifice. Everybody benefits, you see, when, well, let's start with forgiveness, and then we'll talk about anger management in the same way. It seems to me a lot of folks don't get that forgiveness is a gift to yourself. That you can forgive another person, you can forgive yourself. Someone once told me you can also forgive God for not intervening and allowing you to go through all of this stuff. But forgiveness is a letting go, a putting it all down, seeing it as spilt milk or water that's already moved downstream, and understanding that there's really no reason for you to carry this around with you, to bring it into the present and then drag it into your future. And yet many people will hold the grudge, will refuse to forgive because they don't want the other person to be let off the hook. What's that about?
You know, I think it comes from a total misunderstanding of that advice, forgive and forget. Because I don't want to forget, so I'm not going to forgive either. It really should have been forgive and remember, because what you want to forgive is not their actions. What you want to forgive is the hold it has on your emotions. What you want to forgive them so they no longer have any power over you. Now, it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with, I'm still holding on to this hurt about what you did to me and somehow punishing you somehow with that. Although
That's crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
I'm going to keep hurting. I'll keep hurting myself to make sure you suffer.
Now, if it's so that I don't let you do that again, see, that was why it makes sense to me not to forgive and forget. Because if I just forgave and forgot, then you could go do it to me again. I'm going to remember.
You can see it coming a mile away.
I'm going to remember you did that. What I'm going to do is let go of how it used to hurt me. That takes compassion. The way I can let go of how it hurt me is for me to put myself into your shoes and understand that it was your weakness, your inadequacies, your humanness that caused you to behave in such a way that, you know, you acted in a way that I've experienced hurt from. I need to feel like, yeah, I've done that too. I've hurt other people. I didn't. Sometimes I meant to. Sometimes I didn't. Mostly I didn't mean to. But the bottom line is I need to feel that feeling of, yes, I'm capable of that same thing. That's where the rising above it. And what you do is you release the pain that it holds on you. It's such a great gift to give yourself.
Oh, my Lord, you've said it so well. Understanding is the word I want to underscore. It reminds me, and I'll always remember the time in traffic that some guy cut me off. My anger flared. My nostrils physically flared, right? So I could get more oxygen. I went right into fight or flight, and I was going to go get this guy. Knee-jerk response. Well, I let go of that quickly enough, but then something else happened, which is it suddenly occurred to me, maybe for the first time in my life, that even though that guy was seemingly a jerk, what if he didn't mean to do that? And didn't even know what he had done. And further, what if I had done the same thing many times, been in his shoes? I mean, I went from the understanding of sympathy to empathy and said, you know, I've probably done that to other people. Times when somebody got angry at me and I'm thinking, like, what's your problem? I didn't do any, but I did from their perspective.
Right.
That kind of sympathy, empathy, compassion.
That's car passion.
That kind of understanding or realization, it speaks not only to forgiveness, but gosh, the meaning of our lives, to realize that we're not separate and distinct. Though we are in important ways, we don't want to discount the fact that everybody is unique and we have this rich and wonderful diversity of form, beauty. But at the same time, to, from some higher level of understanding, realize that all of that extends from a common source, a common place, whatever you name it. And again, all of us are brothers. We're all at least cousins. We're all related somehow. We're all part of one thing.
Right. So feeling compassion for whatever situation someone else is in, you know, whether it's starving to death in India or, as Bob Dylan said, as helpless as a rich man's son. You know, it depends on, anyone has situations that...
That's a great line. I've never heard that before.
You know, put them in situations that they deserve your compassion if you can rise above your ego to experience it. And I think, again, it's so simple to do. All it just takes is the intention and putting the time and space to do so. It's not something that you can do in 3 seconds, I don't think.
Forgiveness or compassion?
Both, either. I'm talking specifically compassion. It's something that what you really want to do is sort of get into it and like float in it for a while. It's like it's not like a dip your toe into it. It's not one of those kind of experiences. You can do that with sympathy. Even empathy, you sort of have to at least wade into your ankles, but compassion you got to like immerse into. So we're going to do a good portion of this program as an audio journey where we take you into the experience of feeling like swimming in the sea of compassion.
I think anger management runs right along these same lines. The idea, first of all, that I have to be angry at someone, or if that doesn't work, out of desperation, I'll be angry at something. It's difficult for people just to be angry, right? We have to direct it or project it or blame something outside of ourselves. And of course, that leaves us absolutely helpless. As long as we hold others, other people or events, circumstances, situations, responsible, then we end up having no power. The only benefit we get is perhaps the sympathy we can petition from other people. Won't you feel sorry for me? And compassion is love, and empathy is love, but sympathy is, like we said before, more of a decision. It's not much of a benefit that you get, a little bit of sympathy for playing victim and pretending you're helpless, and the reason you're angry is somebody made you angry. How about just you're angry, and then turn within and see what it says about you?
See, that's the key, because feeling compassion in a situation where you're controlling or managing your anger is as simple as getting beneath the anger and feeling the hurt. Because the reason you got angry is because something inside you got wounded. There's something sensitive in there that hurts. So get beneath what you're angry to the hurt inside you, and then recognize that, and this is the compassion part, that it must have been some wound or hurt inside the other person that caused them to behave in such a way to do that to you. So that's not forgiving, forgetting. It's understanding they too are human and choosing to remember the experience, but not the pain of it. You see, if you broke a leg when you were a kid, you remember the experience, you just don't remember the pain of it. If you had a baby, you remember the experience. If you remembered the pain of it, you'd probably never have another baby. But when we break our hearts, when we hurt, when we get wounded by people, we sometimes hold on to those feelings and remember the feelings vividly forever. So forgiveness is letting go of those feelings, not for them. You want to hold on to the memory of it, the thoughts about it, but the feelings about it that cause you to feel so icky and bad, you're not punishing them with those feelings. You're punishing yourself with those feelings. So feeling compassion for them is the way you can release those feelings from yourself.
I think an effort to become more loving, more kind, and more compassionate, even with people you don't like, even with people who abuse you.
You can still be kind. That's so important. You still be kind even to bad people. You don't have to interact with them much, but you can always be nice, at least.
Yeah. That does not weaken your position. Again, it strengthens your position. This is the power of nonviolence that we learn from so many of our prophets, and even some contemporary leaders like Gandhi and Martin Luther King, for example. They understood that nonviolence, when it's practiced as loving kindness and compassion, this is also, of course, the Dalai Lama's message, compassion, loving kindness. But that's a power, you see. Not only is it not a weakness, it's an extraordinary power. And it changes the people who are exposed to it. It's contagious.
Yep.
I remember in the Gandhi, the film Gandhi, where Gandhi is a young lawyer practicing in South Africa, and he has to carry a national ID card because he's a person of color. And he refuses to carry the card, or I know what it is. He goes to burn the card in a demonstration. And this South African policeman, this white Afrikaner, beats him with a stick. And Gandhi gets up, and again, a young attorney, well-dressed, nice suit, but participating in this demonstration, goes to throw the card in the fire, and the cop hits him again. And he gets up again to put it in the fire, and he gets hit a third time. But the cop finally gets to the point where he can't do it anymore. and he walks away. And who knows, maybe he continues to be a cop, and who knows how it would affect him. But what that did for me was show me that that kind of fortitude, that kind of courage that comes from compassion, that was his strength in getting up again and again and again, was I love humanity. I don't want to see humanity separated on silly, arbitrary things like the skin pigmentation, and you're a black man and you're a colored man but not a black man, and you're an Afrikaner but not colored and not black, and that stands in the way of the unitive nature of compassion or love. The magnetic affinity of love compels us to move toward each other, not away from each other. So I would argue that there's a contagious nature to compassion, that as we learn to practice compassionate acts of service, it influences other people.
Right. And sometimes those acts feel hard to do. Sometimes it's difficult to connect with other people's situations or pain. I was reading a book called Loving People, great book. Dr. Townsend talked about a friend of his he noticed was getting a little too cozy with a female office worker, and he was a friend of the husband and wife in this relationship, and he felt compassion. He too had felt those feelings in the past, but he saw this marriage going astray, and he talked to this guy and said, look, I see what's happening here, and I really think that you might want to think, about this a little bit more. And his friend got pissed at him, as he was afraid would happen, and they
got defensive.
Yeah, right. But ultimately, the guy started thinking about it, had a long talk with his wife, broke up with the girl at work, and ultimately created an even closer relationship, with the author. So I guess the bottom line is sometimes feeling compassion doesn't mean like la happy stuff. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's about going where they are and where you need to go to be with them there.
Yeah, I hesitate to agree with you about this, that love has a dark side. But you're absolutely right, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. There's certainly a lot of literature available about the wonderful, warm, fuzzy, fulfilled presence of love in our lives. And we all want love, and many have said, God is love, and the only thing that's real and true is love. But love has its broken hearts. What was that song from the 70s? Nazareth, Love Hurts. Remember that song? It does hurt. A broken heart. And I'm not just talking about breakup in marriage, but grief and loss. People we love and care about die. Some of them untimely deaths, often tragic deaths. Even, animals that we love, the dog dies or whatever, and you have to go through this period of broken heart. The more loving, the more empathetic, the more compassionate we are, the deeper is that hurt. But an amazing thing happens. The ability to feel, once stretched by hurt, never returns to its original shape. So when in time we're healed and the warm, loving presence of what we call love fills that space, it's now carrying more of the happy joy stuff as well. We have to be willing, maybe that's the role of negativity, of adversity and conflict, hurt and suffering in life. This is the first noble truth in Buddhism. Life is suffering. You will suffer. So let's suffer well. Let's face it. Let's be real about it. Let's breathe. Let's move into it without denial. Let's remind ourselves we are spiritual beings. We are built for this. This is what we're made to do, is go through this, that we might come out the other side expanded in a new and improved version.
And one of the most powerful things that I think almost all the meditators in the world agree on is that spending some time each day meditating about compassion is one of the best entry points into moving in that direction. So let's start with an audio journey about a meditation on compassion. And this is really a lot about your own self-direction. We're going to guide you into this, but a lot of this is just reminding you, come back to the compassion, come back to the feeling of open heart. And we'll keep you on track, but your job is to feel compassion for individuals that you choose to feel compassion for, and as a default, and eventually move to feeling compassion for humanity as a whole, for all the trials and tribulations of humankind, and see if you can swim in the sea of human compassion. So, as always, stress is reduced with feeling safe, and you feel safe in several ways. One is releasing body tension, another is closing your eyes and letting yourself know that the stimulus out there is not dangerous, and then, of course, always bringing yourself to the one point of now with one slow, conscious, deep breath. So let's begin with that one slow, conscious, deep breath. And as you release, paradise thinking begins as you envision yourself, imagine yourself, experience yourself in your place of perfect peace.
Create and sense a feeling of letting go from head to toe. Every cell in your body feeling so safe that it can now relax. Place yourself in the center of the cyclone, such that the world may be spinning frantically and chaotically all around you. It always seems to. But you sit quietly, silently, still, and undisturbed in the very center, as if balanced in peace and safety. Take another slow, deep breath, and imagine yourself going a little deeper, as if walking down a few stairs, or taking an elevator or escalator a little deeper, becoming a little more relaxed as you go deeper and deeper.
And the feeling that you are safe pervades every cell in your body. For now, the external world can be put on hold, and you venture into your heart, into your love, on a journey into sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Focus your attention, focus your passion on your heart. See it in your mind's eye, perhaps as a Valentine's image or as the actual organ, but visualize. Put your attention, kinesthetically become aware of the space in the center of your chest. Focus your mind on your heart and feel it open. If you're visualizing the organ, feel the veins, arteries, and capillaries literally open. If you're imagining the Valentine or the image of a heart, feel it open, metaphorically, physically open. And you feel your feelings more deeply. And you're in touch with that part of you that feels. The part of you that can feel compassion.
Initially, it might feel like reaching out to connect, as if holding hands or getting a hug. But very soon it becomes a matter of allowing rather than some effort, a matter of being receptive to a quality of love that's been within you all along. As if sitting quietly and silently behind emotional love. A much more refined, less judgmental, more unitive, more inclusive kind of a love. Again, beyond emotion. A frequency so refined that you sit receptive effortlessly to an awareness that it is love as compassion that connects you to all things, all people, all animals, all plants, the earth itself, the atmosphere, the universe, all events and circumstances and conditions. Don't think it. It's too overwhelming to think. But you can feel it. You can begin the process, anyway, of opening yourself to a profound realization that there is but one thing at work in this universe.
And you are of it. Imagine the feeling of freedom. Feel it. Revel in it. Celebrate it. And acknowledge gratitude for feeling freedom. And now, think about those who don't have it. Those in the world who live in tyranny or imprisoned in a way that freedom is not part of their life. Think about those people and start to feel empathy. What would it feel like? Have you ever been imprisoned? Have you ever been in a place where you're alone? Have you ever been without freedom? If not, imagine what would it be like and feel the empathy. And then, once you have a sense of what it would feel like to be deprived of freedom, understand that around the world right now, there are millions who are deprived of this freedom and hundreds of millions more who feel compassion for their deprivation. Compassion is joining with all of the others who feel compassion for those who don't have freedom. Become part of that voice, part of that choice, part of that sea of humanity that feels for those who are not free. Feel compassion as part of the we.
Love the poor. Be grateful for your prosperity, and yet love the poor. Allow yourself to love those who are hungry, to care about them, just to care about them. To consider that it matters that you care. That so many on this earth are hungry unnecessarily. Love those who suffer injustice. Be grateful that you have not experienced that much injustice in your life, or perhaps you have. We all have some taste of it. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. It's frightening. But you're built for this. Loving on this level, have compassion for those who suffer injustice. It's a little scary at first to face this much truth, but the rewards, the benefits to all concerned are extraordinary, difficult even to list. Starting with the way you feel about yourself, the way it feels when you're compassionate and you're connected with people you just as soon ignore, the poor, the hungry, those imprisoned, those tortured. The nature of injustice itself. Allow yourself to feel that, and you will become strengthened. You will become more loving and more caring. Your values and your ethics will be refined. And further, you will influence those around you. Imagine that now. That To whatever extent or degree you can allow yourself to experience the discomfort and anxiety that comes with compassion for those who hurt and suffer, the more love you have to give, the greater your influence upon others, and then that spreads, don't you see? It's like a movement. It's a relay race. You pass your love on in ways that go beyond emotional love, even romance. Love even for those that you don't like, those you find abusive. You could still be kind. Even loving your enemy. You don't have to suffer the abuse or expose yourself to danger, but you could practice a quality of loving kindness and compassion that uplifts the whole situation better and better. Water to wine, lead to gold, the caterpillar to the butterfly. Transformation. Be the change you wish to see in the world.
Loving kindness and compassion for the abused, the misused, and even the confused. Feel it. It's easy to do. It takes intention on the part of the higher you. Take this moment, this next moment or two, and feel compassion for those who have less than you, whose situations are worse, whose difficulties are greater, who have more disconnect from each other and their Creator. Those people who are lonely, those people who are sad, feel compassion. It doesn't feel bad. It feels deep. It feels strong. It feels powerful. It feels whole. Feel compassion in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. Feel. It will heal.
Remind yourself that although everyone is unique, and we celebrate this diversity, that on balance, no one is superior to anyone nor inferior to anyone, just different from. That's a step toward harmony. No one's better than me or worse than me, just different from me. I'm not better or worse than anyone else, just different. Vive la différence. And if we lose this sense of hierarchy, this battle for power over, this patriarchy and dominance, we can find extraordinary strength in harmony. So as Steve said, bring the intention of the higher self to compassion through deliberate sympathy, then go even deeper into the emotional nature for empathy, and then rise above even the emotional nature and endure compassion for the greater good of all.
And as you continue to feel your ability to experience this amazing thing called compassion grow, deepen, expand, form in your mind the intention. Give yourself the command. This is something I'll choose to do again. And again and again, it's true. I'll find times, I'll create the space in my life. This is something that I choose to do. Compassion is easy. The intention is the challenge. To decide to allow yourself to feel. The feelings that are powerful, the feelings that are transcendent, the feelings that are so deeply real. Choosing to go here, to this compassion place, to feel this feeling in this compassion space. This is good for your heart, good for your soul. It'll heal your body. It'll make you feel whole. And it contributes to the planet as a whole.
Contributes to the planet as a whole. Except that you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to fix everything all by yourself. You don't need to get a group or organization together that has all the answers or makes everything whole again. Think globally, but act locally. Just participate. Just care. And take a little action. Move from the caring, from the sympathy, to a deeper empathy and strive for greater compassion as a participant. One of many. Many individuals in many small groups working together in many different ways. Unified by one thing. Love at the highest frequency imaginable. We don't need to all get together and work it out. We don't need a global government with a global agenda. We can do it locally with your family and your community. And if all the families and all the communities begin to do that, we see it happening on a large scale. I like the Margaret Mead quote. Let this sink in. I have to paraphrase, but it's something like, never doubt that a small, caring, committed group of individuals can make an extraordinary difference in the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Think globally, act locally. Care, love, move through your sympathy and your empathy to compassion, and then repeat again and again. Work on kindness. Anytime you find yourself choosing sides, judging things as right or wrong, trying to figure out who are the good guys, and does that make everyone else the bad guys? And instead, work through harmony toward unity, compassion, the oneness of love.
So begin from your heart and feel compassion for those that anger you and understand it heals you. Feel compassion for those who have wounded you, for it heals you. And feel compassion for humanity, for all its trials, for all its challenges, for all that this amazing race of human beings goes through to survive, succeed, and thrive. Feel compassion, because it heals your heart and makes you really know that you're not alone in this universe. As you feel compassion, you feel all the other's energy as it flows.
In a few moments, I'll suggest that you open your eyes, wide awake and alert, carrying with you gently this sense of compassion, however it's occurring to you now. And so reorient yourself to the sound of our voices as you imagine your compassion for humanity radiating out to include the animals. Your pets, your friends' pets, domesticated animals and farm animals and all of the wild animals, as your compassion continues to emanate, it now embraces the plant kingdom. For without plants, there could be no animals or humans. The plants allow us to draw upon the mineral kingdom, the environment, the ecosystem. Let your compassion extend to Mother Earth, to Gaia, to the life support system of this planet Earth. And imagine that compassion spreading out through the solar system and the galaxy and the known universe, everywhere equally present. A sense that you can bring with you effortlessly. As you open your eyes now, wide awake and alert, feeling rested and refreshed, and I'll bet you pretty darn compassionate.
Well, for the whole darn universe, I feel...
To the exclusion of no thing.
There you go. It's, one of those fascinating things that costs nothing except a little bit of time and a little bit of intention and has a tremendous payback. But it requires you being willing to feel, and sometimes vulnerability is not the most enjoyable experience, but it's always good. In fact, it's usually great, actually, because it makes you more able to experience the other side of the coin. The deeper you experience the pain, the more you experience the joy. And
we're built for this, like we said before.
That's right. It's just a little boo-boo. It hurts, but you recover pretty quickly and come back grander than you ever were when you experienced it before.
No pain, no gain.
Study the great minds that have ever lived and see what they have to say about compassion and see what they have to say about going deeply into where other human beings are in terms of and the unexamined life isn't worth living. That's really what it's all about.
No rain, no rainbows.
There you go. That's a great Maui saying.
Hey, thanks for listening, and we appreciate you being a contributor at FocusedPassion.com. Remember to pass it on. We talk a lot about sharing and caring and personal and spiritual development being a relay race. Self-improvement is wonderful, but it has to continue on out into contributions to the world. So for absolutely no charge whatsoever, you can send as many of these programs to as many people as you'd like, as often as you wish, and actually we do it for you. Just come back to FocusedPassion.com, log in, and right under your audio player you'll see a link that says share one with a friend or send one to a friend. And you click on that, and it's so easy to do. So pass it on, share the good news, and this is contagious. This is infectious in the best way. This is not the flu. This is love, and it heals, and it enlightens, and it's the ultimate truth, and compassion is the highest frequency that humanity has discerned. We don't have any other way. We're still developing the vocabulary.
That's right. And right now, have compassion for all those students who are facing their final exams coming up, and send them the Family Learning Hour. You remember what it was like to take final exams? Send them the Family Learning Hour. It's free. It's powerful. It'll make it so much easier for them to experience greatness on their final exams. That's compassion. Remember what it was like to be in school and facing yours? Help the students that you love to face their final exams in a brand new way with compassion.
And so be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.